pump up the volume, pump up the volume, pump up the volume, because the pump is full.
Just waking up in the morning, gotta thank God. I don't know, but today seems kinda odd.
Hello and welcome to the Pump is Full podcast. We're back and we have a lot of things to go over, so let's get into it. So Hudson, Cam Newton got signed to the Patriots. What's kind of your take on this?
I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with Cam. He's like from the Atlanta area, played high school football in Georgia, which is cool, and then obviously went to the Panthers. Don't like the Panthers. I think he's going to have a huge chip on his shoulder coming in this fall just because he literally got passed on by every single team. I don't know, he looks really good in all of his videos that he's posted on Instagram. He looks super well, super in shape. He's been training with a ton of big name guys. I wouldn't be surprised if he came in and kind of lit it up. I'm interested to see what Belichick and McDaniels kind of do with him. I feel like this gives Cam a chance to prove himself just because, everyone kind of already wrote him off. And it kind of gives McDaniels a little way to prove himself also because, he did go off and do his own thing in Denver. It wasn't super successful. But a lot of people, when they think Josh McDaniels, are like, he had Tom Brady. So if he can show that he can also have a successful offense with a quarterback that's completely different play style than Tom Brady, I think it can benefit them both. I think they're probably the favorite to win that division now. I know as of today, they've had 5 or 6 guys opt out because of the COVID stuff. I still would pick them as the favorite probably, but I think he's going to have a good season. What about you?
Well, so my main takeaway from this is how Jameis and Cam, granted Jameis is a lot more egregious, how they were able to pay these shit contracts for these quarterbacks who were making significantly more as starters like just the year prior. I think Cam Newton definitely is probably he's the best quarterback in that division. I don't think it's really you can't argue that Darnold or Allen are better, and obviously Tua hasn't played a game. So there's really no argument there. He's the best quarterback in the division, and when you have the best quarterback in the division on your team, you 9 out of 10 times win that division. So we'll see.
I'm curious to see how much RPO and read option plays they have for him. I don't think we'll have any design runs like that for Lamar because I think Cam's kind of past that. But I'll be interesting to see if they make sure to kind of keep Cam out of harm's way. I think he's always going to kind of find himself in trouble because he is a physical quarterback. He does try to run people over, run through people. But I'm gonna be interested to watch that if they try to limit him getting hit and touched unnecessarily.
Well, Cal brought this up too. I think, first of all, it was actually so big that they got him because if you think of their offensive weapons, their running backs aren't the worst. They have Sony Michel, Burkhead, Damian Harris, Brandon Bolden. So it's none of these guys are big standout guys, but they're someone who they're not the best running backs, but it's at least a solid core of younger guys.
Mm-hmm.
Younger guys and a couple veterans. James White as well.
And the receivers I know people shit on last year Brady doesn't have enough weapons. But Edelman's still a solid receiver. Mohamed Sanu is solid. And N'Keal Harry had some flashes last year.
But comparatively to most other teams, I would say their weapons are definitely weaker than most other teams. I think it's going to be. Yeah. I feel Cam's can definitely his athleticism can help, especially in the run game.
I feel outside of Christian McCaffrey, he's a freak. I feel Cam has more weapons with this Patriots team than he's had in a while in Carolina. Just because some of those receivers they threw out, I think the Super Bowl year, his receivers were not very good. I think Ted Ginn may have been the best receiver. I might be mistaken. It may have been Fat Calvin Benjamin.
Yeah. So I was gonna say he had Christian McCaffrey, who's definitely been the best weapon he's had since he played in Carolina. But before that, he had Greg Olsen, who wasn't bad, but it's still not he was never the best tight end in the league. And he had rookie Kelvin Benjamin, who's good, and then he had Kelvin Benjamin got hurt. Then he was okay, but then he just got really fat, and you know how that went down. And then he was done. So I think it's going to be interesting. He also has better coaches. I like Ron Rivera, but he definitely is going to have a better coaching staff than he's ever had. So
Yeah.
I'm not a big Cam fan, but I think this is definitely the best spot. And he has a incentivized contract where his pay is kind of shit, but the better he plays, the more he'll get. So I highly doubt he's not going to try and go all out. So I think it's going to be interesting to see him. Another interesting point, since our last pod is Patrick Mahomes now has the biggest contract in NFL. He got paid a lot.
So much money that he, as of today, he is also now has ownership in the Kansas City Royals.
Patrick Mahomes made so much money that Jackson Mahomes can retire as a TikTok star now. Like that's where he can put his focus at this point. I think one interesting to note. So a lot of people, I've heard so many people who don't understand football be like, he's got a big contract. What's he gonna do? Like, how are they gonna pay people? The contract or his new contract extension doesn't affect cap space for another 2 years, which is, I think, a really important thing. They still have 2 years before that big contract even affects cap space. And in the next 2 years, cap space is probably going to increase anyway. So they're going to have a little bit more spending money.
It'll go up with the TV deals.
And plus, what he's getting paid now might not even be the market for quarterbacks. Tua might sign a huge extension in 2 years, or Joe Burrow might be signed some extension if he lights it up in Cincinnati, because Cincinnati has a little bit of money to play around with. So I think it's a lot of money now, but I think considering, first of all, who he is, how long it's going to take to really affect, and how good their team is, I think it's honestly the right play to do right now.
Yeah, and similar with, they also signed Chris Jones, I think, within the same week, maybe the next week, whenever the Mahomes deal was signed. And his contract's very similar, where it's after 2 years, they can get out of it and kind of restructure it. So they're kind of setting, at least, I don't know all the math and all the business behind these deals, but from what I read stuff, it seems like they're doing it in a smart way where they can weave their way out of these deals and kind of renegotiate where they have to, or put money aside to go out and get someone else. So it seems like they're doing it in a smart way instead of just paying him a shit ton. And he deserves it. But
it was even reported that he said in an interview that he left some money on the table for Chris Jones. So it's like, if I would not be surprised if down the road they're like, hey, we need to move some of your contract money around so we can sign someone, so we delay you getting paid a couple million. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to be too upset by that.
Doesn't Kelsey's deal run out in 2 years, maybe a year?
Whose deal?
Travis Kelsey's.
I can look that up real quick. I'm not sure. I mean, I would imagine so. It seems like he's been signed forever.
I think I read that. That's not a huge thing. But he is a huge thing. But I think that's their next, person to lock up. He's a little up there in age.
I can't find it, but I'm assuming that. He's 30. He's 31. Yeah. Oh, he's a free agent in 2022. So when Mahomes' contract kicks in, yes, that's when it'll come up. So he's 31. He'll be 33 when it's time to re-sign him. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, he's the second best tight end in the NFL right now. Probably will stay that way until it's time to sign. So should be interesting to watch. So I went to Las Vegas this past week. It was very fun.
How cool is the stadium?
Yeah, the stadium. It's gonna be.
Wait, how much progress did you notice from when you were there in December or January to now?
It was not even close to being finished. My stepdad, who works in a lot of real estate and construction and things like that, was that's insane that it's not even close to being done with football season. And you would think with the COVID stuff that it wouldn't. It was probably done, or at least the outside was definitely done. They probably had maybe a little bit of stuff on the inside. I don't know, but it looked so nice. I heard there's going to be a sports book in there. The fact that you can gamble in it, them moving to Las Vegas, while it hurts a lot of Oakland fans, was the right call in terms of a business decision.
I feel like a business decision, and I feel like it's a pretty, obviously you know more than me, I feel like it's a pretty big and populated area, especially you'll have people coming in all the time to see their teams play there. But I feel like they'll have a pretty good fan base just because they've never had a team.
Their hockey team got a lot of fans too.
Exactly.
I don't think there's any problem with it.
Exactly. I think they'll do fine with fans. I feel like they'll probably be really popular. That stadium's going to be dope. So I don't know if they're in line for a Super Bowl, but I'm sure they will be. It looks cool from the pictures you guys sent.
Yeah, the outside looks so cool. I wish we could have gone in, but obviously we couldn't. But I like as a sports fan, I think it's cool because it's one step closer to being able to gamble on sports, which I think is like a huge thing. That also brings a lot of fandom to the thing because like when I was there in January during the NFL playoffs, it was crazy seeing as soon as the time came on for like the Ravens Titans game, like everyone in the city was watching it and people were either screaming or yelling after every touchdown. It was such like a unique thing to see. And so I'm excited for this next step in the NFL.
Yeah, I off the topic of football a little bit. There's been talks that like the MLB really wants to get a team out in Vegas. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a little boom with. I don't think the NBA would give them a team. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like an MLB team, which is kind of crazy that Vegas, out of like nowhere in the span of like less than 10 years, they have like 3 pro sports teams.
Would it be an expansion team or a normal team?
I think it would be a normal team. It might be. It might be Tampa because their stadium contract runs out this year and they have like no fans. So
well, that's a great point too. Actually, why they should have moved to Vegas because their stadium before was a fucking baseball field. Like it looked so gross. I remember reports of so many players saying they hated playing there because it hurt just to land on.
The fucking infield dirt and stuff.
Yeah. So this is definitely a good move and very happy they went with this. So we actually had a team rebrand recently in the NFL. What are your thoughts on the Washington football team? We don't even have to get into this scandal because there are people much smarter than us and who know more about the subject, But let's just stick to the rebranding instead of the huge scandal Dan Snyder let slide.
Cal brought up a good point. We're kind of on opposite sides, but Cal was like, I mean, to be fair, it would have been extremely hard to like switch logos. I think they were going to keep the colors regardless. I kind of think their colors are cool. I like their colors. But like, I think Cal was like, it's pretty hard to change all this. I think like with how much money they have in the NFL, they probably paid a top branding like agency to get that done. And obviously it is just kind of like a gap. It's like a 1-year gap, like the Washington football team. But I don't know. I feel like they could have come up with something better or like completely rebranded. It's just super lame. I'm not a fan of it at all. They're gonna suck. They're gonna suck on the field, and their name sucks too. So
I saw that people started trademarking some of the names that were rumored for him. One team that I really saw, I liked concept art. I tweeted about it. Was like the Washington. I think it was Washington Red Spears, and it was just like cool concept. I saw like Red Hawks, and there might have been there were like generals and things like that. And so there were a lot of options, but I completely understand the length of how hard it is to rebrand, and they were kind of rushed into it. Granted, this should have been something that they've been working on for a while, but that's a whole nother story. But I feel like Washington,
their like logo, that's like their Twitter and Instagram logo now, is just so lame. It's just like a Microsoft Word like Roman numeral. I don't know what font it is, but it's just like a generic yellow W. It's just so bad. I'm curious to see. I think it comes out like at some point. They have to be last in merchandise sales this year, like by far. There's no way people are going out and buying the Washington football team.
That's my problem with it too. Is they started selling merch for it too. Like, who wants to wear something that says Washington football team? That looks so stupid.
I like the numbers on the helmets. Like, I know people like, oh, that's a college thing. I think it's kind of cool. It's different, but that's the only really thing I like about it.
I can see where people like it. I prefer the logo, so not the Redskins or the R words logo, but the actual logo on the helmets. For example, I love I like the Steelers and like the Raiders helmets a lot, but I don't know. I think it's just seems pretty lazy. I think they could have delayed it for another couple weeks and done something better, and especially not to sell this shitty ass merch that just says Washington football team.
We'll have to keep our eye on that. I'll have to do some research when like sales pass towards like the end of this like calendar year. They have to be dead last. Like there's no way people's buying that.
Yeah, nobody's buying a Simba jersey that says number 7 Washington football team. Like, that's just not happening. There's no way they can sell jerseys.
Imagine,
Well, they can sell jerseys, but
imagine if you're like you were a huge Ohio State fan. You're like, oh, I just want a Chase Young jersey. Like, you're not paying $150 for the Washington football team.
yeah, like that's just not happening.
Speaking of the Redskins, though, we have some more Redskins news.
Oh, what is it?
Alex Smith was cleared. Alex Smith was cleared by his personal doctor to resume football activities, but he failed his physical from the Redskins team doctor. I don't really I guess I understand. I guess wanting to have the passion and wanting to play, but his injury was so bad he almost lost his leg. I don't know why he just wouldn't kind of like go into coaching or some type of like mentoring thing. I don't know if he like realistically thinks he can get back on the field. I don't know, and I don't know what doctor in their like right mind would want to like clear him to go out on the field and risk something like even worse happening. I don't really understand it. I don't think he'll ever play another snap again. I don't think any team will let him on the field, but
I mean, it's good for him. I think Alex Smith was one of the like not like super likable quarterbacks. He's not like exciting like Mahomes or anything like that, but he was likable in the sense that like he never gave you a reason to hate him. He just kind of went out there. You didn't see him like do a bunch of shit you wouldn't like. He's just a good dude, and it was really unfortunate how everything went down for him when he got moved to Washington, and then he almost lost his leg and everything. So I think it's really good that he's on PUP, but I think it's kind of like Ryan Shazier, where I'm pretty sure Ryan Shazier is on the physically unable to perform list, but he's probably never playing another snap again.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like having him in the locker room, though, mixing him with Ron Rivera is definitely good for Haskins and Kyle Allen, two pretty young quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that because going back to Ryan Shazier, he helps coach up Steelers linebackers, which is like, I'm sure he was meant a lot to the Steelers, and the Steelers mean a lot to him. So I think it's like really good when, you know, teams and players can take care of each other like this. The teams like, we'll pay you, just hang out in the locker room and be friends with everyone. I think nothing can go wrong with that.
We have some breaking news. Joey Bosa just agreed on a 5-year, $135 million extension with 102 guaranteed. That is an NFL defensive record.
For Joey Bosa, I mean, he's good, but
he's good. I think, I don't know, they have money to spend. That defense is, I think it's pretty underrated just how much talent they have on defense. It kind of sucks that their offense is just super dry. I don't know. I don't know if he's worth the biggest NFL contract, but kind of like we talked about with Mahomes, those things kind of get out. Those things won't really last a year until someone like re-ups you or whatever. Yeah. So I don't know. He's a good pass rusher. I mean, he's been successful and productive since he's come in the NFL. So I guess it's deserved.
I mean, to be fair, in 4 years, his brother will sign a new contract and it'll make his contract look like nothing in comparison. So
exactly, yeah.
It's funny too because he always gets the bag from the Chargers. He got it when he was holding out for he held out his rookie season. I remember that.
Yeah, that's like he held out because there's something with the Chargers. I don't know what it is. I remember someone was trying to explain it to me. But it's like why Eli didn't want to go there too. I don't know if it's like something to do with their owners, but Bosa didn't really want to play with them, but then he agreed to end up playing for them. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be very good, but that's for another podcast. But shout out Joey Bosa for getting the bag.
Good for him. And breaking news that happened a couple days ago. So Antonio Brown formally retired on Twitter. Said he was done. You know, he's done everything he could. A couple days later, or maybe been a day later, he tweeted out that he is upset no team would sign him, and he's unretired. And then he had a kid. So good for Antonio Brown. Keep him busy.
How many kids is that now?
He's got 6, I want to say. 6. He's trying to keep pace with Antonio Cromartie. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Do you think AB will ever play a snap? I feel like we've talked about this multiple times in the podcast. Do you think Antonio Brown will ever play a snap again in the NFL?
No, I think he's done. I think he's probably blacklisted at this point, where people were just like, we don't want to deal with the trauma. He's obviously got something unfortunately wrong with him mentally. So I don't know. I don't think he should be playing anymore, just for his own mental sake, and for probably his mental health too, because I wouldn't be surprised if he has some sort of brain injury. So I think it'd be in his best interest to stay off the field and someone to suspend his Twitter account so he can't keep tweeting like an idiot. On the flip side, though, do you think he got his degree?
No, heck no. Antonio Brown did not go. I would be so curious to know how many weeks he participated in his Central Michigan classes.
It's unfortunate. If he would have just stuck it out, he could have gotten the COVID grade bump and probably like passed with flying colors. The easy A's. Let me look. I don't want to see Central Michigan. I just want to know.
I think it's sad just because AV was such a unique talent, because he's not like physically, he's not like, you wouldn't look at him like that's one of the top receivers. I still think he probably has one of the best work ethics. Just like, I think he's an extremely hard worker. I do agree with you though. I think he probably has some type of, people always say CTE. I don't know if it's that, but he has some type of like mental or brain problem. I don't really know what. I don't think I'll play in the NFL again. I think he'll always kind of be around like within the media just because he's very vocal and loud. But I don't ever see him. Like, I don't ever see a network bring him on to be a broadcaster or him being a coach or anything. So I think I'll always just kind of be around. But I don't think we'll ever really see him on TV or any type of role like that.
It's so sad when that all went down. Like, he was my favorite player, and his like tenure at the Steelers, he was like the best receiver we've ever had. We've had some really good ones, so that one really hurt. But like kind of like we both have been saying, I think I don't think he'll get signed. I think it's in a lot of best interests of him to stay away, because he just keeps getting caught up in like more like trouble, and I think it's just best to kind of keep him away from the game. Did you see the Madden ratings?
Yeah, I saw some of them. I didn't pay I didn't pay a bunch of attention to it. I know Gronk was like the third highest rated tight end at like 95. That makes no sense.
TJ Watt was 86, and he was in contention for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, he wasn't one of the top 10 pass rushers or something like that. I think it's just weird how they do the rankings. I don't really know like what metrics they kind of base it off of, but also it doesn't really matter that much because after week 1, I think they go in and change it. So I think it's more just like kind of like a media thing, and there's not much to talk about. Is why it's a big deal. But some of them are whack. I mean, it's like that every year. I think the ones that stood out the most was TJ Watt and the Gronk one.
They're just.
And Deshaun Watson was like an 80. Deshaun Watson was like an 86 or 85.
Oh yeah, right. He's at least like a 92 or something like that. Like,
I think Carson Wentz was rated higher than him, which makes no sense.
Yeah, put some respect on Deshaun Watson. If he's the only reason the Texans are like a team at this point, just because especially with like a DeAndre Hopkins trade, like Bill O'Brien's so incompetent, they can't ever like do anything in the playoffs.
I think Kyler Murray was like a 77 too, which might be kind of fair, but I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head.
Gardner Minshew. This is all I have written down for it. Just Gardner Minshew has a flow. He's been growing the hair out. I don't think I can accurately portray him anymore because I can just never get my hair to grow out that long. So that's unfortunate.
He's getting the 7 Jaguar fans ready for Trevor Lawrence's
They're ready for. Hey, we have to support Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen's great, Kentucky legend. I think he'll be a great pass rusher. They're not going to be very good this year. I think they know that too. And I think if they're really bad this year, but they end up with Trevor Lawrence, I still think they probably deem that as a successful season. But didn't Ngakoue never got moved, did he? That just went away. Do you remember when that was the whole big storyline?
I do actually. I feel like I talked about that. He's like, I'm trying to get traded.
That was at the beginning of the quarantine. That just proves how long this has been. I completely forgot that he was trying to get traded.
Here's a bunch of reports saying the Browns are going to inquire about trading for Ngakoue, which leads me to go back to where the fuck are the Browns getting all this money? Like,
They
I
have to
don't
be.
know.
I don't. So I don't. We've talked about this. I don't know how the Browns have money. They spent a ton of money on free agency. Hooper and Conklin. Miles Garrett got a bag this offseason. I think Odell has a bag too. They'll probably pay Baker a bunch too, and probably Nick Chubb. I don't know where their money's coming from.
Jarvis Landry's got some money out. Hold on, I'm looking up the Jarvis Landry has a bigger cap hit than Odell too. Like, what is this? I'm looking at their cap. Jarvis Landry's the
And
most expensive person on their team.
they tried to pay Clowney money too, and he didn't want to go. But
Holy
I don't
shit!
know. They better. I don't know. They've spent a lot of money for having no real successful results on the field.
This is even before a lot of the some of the updated stuff. So Odell and Jarvis are both 14.5 million apiece. Sheldon Richardson's coming close to 1,400. Olivier Vernon 11 mil, or sorry, everything's million. 14.5 million for Jarvis and Odell, almost 14 for Sheldon Richardson. They just paid Jack Conklin. They have Olivier Vernon with 11 million. They're gonna have to pay. This isn't even counting Miles Garrett getting his absolute bag. They just paid for Hooper. Like, I do not know where they're getting all this money to sign all these free agents. It does not make sense at all.
And good for them. They're not going to do anything, but
They'll probably come in third in the division with all this money spent.
they might come in fourth. Honestly, I don't know. I'm excited for the preview podcast. That was a hit last year. Coming soon.
One thing that is going to be interesting to watch is, I don't know if you saw, there's a chance for the cap to drop by almost $23 million. It said it might go
because of COVID.
Yeah, because they're not going to bring in as much money, so it would go from 198 to 175 million, which I don't see how you can do that to a team. How they can let it drop that much. I mean, they probably have done it before, and I'm just an idiot. But I feel like the cap normally just always going up, and at 23 million, that's like 2 star players that you might have to not be able to pay.
It'll be interesting to see the effects of all this, like on sports in general. Obviously, NFL. I know, like European soccer, the way they do like transfers and stuff. Like a lot of people's like transfer values are like extremely low just because of all this. I'm sure there'll be like a ripple effect on like all sports when it comes to free agent signings and stuff like that.
I don't know. Because also there's like 6 teams that are already over the cap. I remember the Steelers and Chiefs were 2 of them. I can't remember the other teams off the dome, but it's gonna be a huge hit to a lot of teams because they're gonna have to, especially with teams that are gonna have to re-sign people during this. I mean, there's just no way you can re-sign some of the stars that they have, especially when you have like a lot of the a lot of people from the good class. Like for example, I think it's 2017. Yeah, the 2017.
Lamar and them.
Yeah, like the 2017 draft class, because that's T.J. Watt and Juju and James Conner are all from that class, and all their contracts are coming up. So, we're going to see how that works out for a lot of teams. It is not looking good for my team, so hopefully that $23 million does not come into effect. Did you listen to Matt? You told me you listened to Matt Ryan on Pardon My Take, right?
Yeah, I did.
How'd you like that?
I thought so. Obviously, I'm a Falcons fan. I think Matt is. I don't know. Within the city, I feel like a lot of people hate on Matt. I think that's kind of gone away now, especially during all of this. He's raised a ton of money for the city with the COVID stuff and the Black Lives Matter fundraising. And I think the Pardon My Take interview just kind of gave people a picture of his personality, which was cool to see. Because, like, obviously I've seen Matt Ryan talk most of the time, but I am an Atlanta sports fan. So I feel like from the outside, Matt Ryan to to a non-Falcons fan, Matt Ryan's just kind of this like generic, like kind of robotish quarterback. But I think it made him a lot more personable. I'm excited to see if he goes back on there during the season because they told him at the end, they're like, oh, you're recurring guest, get to come back on. I'm sure he'd be more than welcome to or more than happy to come back on there. But it was cool to see. I mean, it's always cool when one of your favorite podcast interviews, one of your team's best players and favorite players. I enjoyed it. What do you think about it?
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was really interesting. I didn't think he'd be as personable as he would be. And my favorite part was that they just immediately were like, let's get out of the way, 28-3. And then he was like, oh, God, geez. And then he just kind of went in on it. I think it's going to be interesting if he ever gets back to the Super Bowl because I think he's been a really good quarterback who's just been in an unfortunate circumstance for a while. I think the Falcons are definitely because as you know, as a Falcons fan, they're the most hot and cold team maybe in the past 10 years because they'll go from winning the division to bottom of the division basically every other year is what it feels like.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic, but we'll get to that when we talk about previews. Speaking of that, though, did you look at the NFL's top 100 rankings that started coming out yesterday?
I've seen it came out, and I saw Minka was 35, which I'm glad that he's finally getting respect because he's the second best safety outside of Jamal Adams in the NFL.
I think, yeah.
Who we'll get to after this.
I told you on the group chat, I might just be my quarantine brain because of all this, but I swear there have been 2 or 3 different top 100 rankings during this that people have gotten mad about on Twitter. The 2 wildest ones was Jimmy G at 49. I understand him being on the list because he was an impact player and he went to the Super Bowl obviously, but definitely shouldn't be 49. And Todd Gurley was 51, who did put up good numbers last year when he was on the field. He was also hurt a lot, and they had to limit his snaps. So I don't really understand that. But it's kind of in the same boat as the Madden rating. Doesn't really matter that much. It just kind of gives the media something to talk about during the dead period. But yeah.
I think one of the top 100s was the one by Pete Prisco, and I'm pretty sure that's the one where he didn't even fucking put Minka in the top 100. So that one's immediately,
Is that the guy on CBS?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that one's obviously not fucking real because he was the second best player on the Steelers team outside of TJ Watt. He had Juju Smith-Schuster over him and he just did not play him. But aside from this guy being a dumbass, there's been I agree, there's been a bunch of top 100s, but this is the first one that's actually the NFL's top 100, not and not another one. They always, I think this one's voted on by the players, which I think it is, which I can accept a lot more because the players normally know who's actually legit and who's not because they have to play against them. And then I see things like Alvin Kamara at 42, JJ Watt. Actually, JJ Watt should not be 45, right? At least not this season. He didn't play that well, but I feel like that's some of these are respect slots on the top 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the final thing I kind of want to talk about, and then we can get into shout outs because I have one recurring shout out I need to give, or one returning shout out, excuse me. So the Jamal Adams trade and beef. The Jets traded 2 firsts and a third and Bradley McDougald for Jamal Adams and a 4th. They basically traded the Seahawks traded to the Jets basically a quarterback. This was a trade for a quarterback, essentially. This is what you would give up for your next franchise quarterback. And I think it was, first of all, too much. I think 2 firsts is way too much. I do think, as I've said earlier, Jamal Adams is the best safety in the NFL. But I think if they don't win now, they don't win within these next 2, if they don't win in 2 years, Jamal Adams' contract goes up and they don't sign him. They just gave up so much for nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Jets, won the trade if we're doing who won the trade. But I don't think it's a landslide. Just because Zach brought up a good point. I thought about this too when it happened. The Seahawks have always been, I think, at least the past 2 or 3 drafts, they always take they always have a weird first round pick, someone they could probably get in the second round. So I guess it kind of because I think it was Rashad Penny 2 years ago, and then this
I'm
year
looking at it.
Here's the linebacker from Texas Tech. It's always weird people, and they're just such a well-run organization. Most of those players, they hit or they are successful. I don't know about Rashad Penny or the kid this year. But I mean, they've been pretty good drafters, obviously, in the past. So I don't think it's like a huge hit not having that first round pick. But you do bring up a good point. That's like the same you get for a quarterback, which is just insane. I think obviously he elevates that defense. You saw how dominant they were when they had Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. So kind of getting like that leader, that top safety back there, I think will obviously make a huge difference in their defense.
Yeah,
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, now that I'm looking at it, I'm looking at their draft picks, and their first actually like solid first round draft pick was in 2010, or like for a while. They didn't have a pick from 2013 to 2015, none in 2017. They drafted Earl Thomas, who's really good, but then they drafted Earl Thomas, who is obviously worth the first round pick, doesn't play for them anymore. Russell Okung, who's like good, but he wasn't like elite or anything. Yeah.
He don't play on defense. Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. Not even there anymore. He played 5 years. Like, none of their first round draft picks are even on the team anymore.
They're just weird. I remember like the storyline the past two drafts in the first round was, oh, that's weird. The Seahawks could have got them in the second round. So like if that's kind of their mindset, I understand getting a player like Jamal Adams. It's a player you're probably going to draft. Obviously, they don't know this far in advance. You can probably get later in the round just because you kind of have that like different perspective. I don't think it's a huge deal. I think he's going to help them a lot. And I think good for the Jets because they have more picks because they were kind of deflated from who did they lose? They had a big trade, didn't they? They lost some draft picks.
Who, the Jets?
I can't remember it now. The Sam Darnold deal. They lost some draft capital because they traded up for him. So this kind of regains that, obviously.
I mean, they haven't had they drafted Sean Alexander in 2000 and Earl Thomas in 2010. I think in every 10 years, hitting on a first round draft pick is not really the strategy. So I feel like, I mean, getting the best safety in the game, it could be worse. I mean, they got the best safety in the NFL, who's going to be their defensive captain most likely, and they also have Bobby Wagner.
I wouldn't be surprised now. It obviously, like we said, he's the best safety in the league. He might be my pick for defensive player of the year next year. Obviously, he would never win at the Jets just because they're so bad. But being at a team like Seattle, you're in a ton of primetime games. You're going to have better defensive players around you. I think it's going to kind of like elevate his status as a top safety in the NFL and like a top defensive player.
Yeah. Did you see the beef with Le'Veon?
Yeah, what was he have? He was mad because Jamal Adams like wanted him to stay. What was it? I read it, but I didn't really completely understand it.
So from what I gathered, the Le'Veon Jamal Adams beef was all over. Le'Veon was like, oh, he's big talk. He was basically like talking up that he wanted to stay and all this shit like that. I don't even remember exactly, but he was kind of like Le'Veon called him out on Twitter for leaving essentially and like bitching about getting traded. And then Jamal Adams noted, see you in week 14 because the Jets and Seahawks play then. And then Le'Veon was like, I don't know why you're talking all this blah 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 with all this noted. I don't know. I think it's kind of just beef because Jamal wanted out and Le'Veon, I guess, is in on the Jets or something, which I don't know why he's in on the Jets because they were like trying to trade him just a little bit ago.
Weird. I don't know. My favorite Le'Veon memory of the past couple of years, I was listening to a podcast, and it was like a New York-based podcast, and it was right when Le'Veon signed, and the like talk show host or like podcast host was super excited. But they were talking about they were reading Le'Veon's like rap songs or something. I can't remember how it went down. And he had a lyric that was like, I robbed these people, no mask needed. And I remember the person was like, as a Jets fan, I don't know how to feel about a rap lyric like this. Just because he was like, he might be robbing us of millions of dollars because of his production. I thought that was, I don't know. Le'Veon, I good for show out week 14. I don't really know.
I actually, when I was reading this, I was like, God, I hate Le'Veon, and I couldn't remember why. And then I just remembered all this Steelers drama, and I was like, oh, that was right.
But does he didn't he say he had love for the Steelers now? Wasn't that a storyline?
Something, I don't know. He was like all love. He was one of he went along with the story with Antonio Brown that they're like, I hate Ben. He's an asshole. But then after he says that, obviously every Steelers lineman and all the other skill players are like, I like him. So
They have no receivers in New York, so they're gonna have to use Big Bell a lot. So
I don't even think they have. Excuse me. I don't even think they have Robbie Anderson anymore. I don't even
in
think he's
Carolina,
exactly. Yeah.
I think their best receiver is Jamison Crowder. I'm not sure.
Oh my dude, yeah, that's not okay. I'm looking at the Jets wide receiver core right now. I mean he's or I don't I've been saying this for a while. Oh my god, I know none of these fucking people on their team. They have Josh Doxson, Rashard Perryman. Oh, they drafted Denzel Mims. Okay, maybe he's.
I remember.
He's,
I thought Josh
he's fast.
Doxson was gonna be so good when he got drafted to the Redskins.
He's
I
just
thought he
super
was gonna
fast.
be a superstar.
I don't know. It's nice going this whole offseason not being in a bunch of drama, like when the only drama is that Big Ben's addicted to porn. I think that's a win for most Steelers fans. When it's not any of his other shit and it's just he has a porn addiction, I think I'll take this one every time. Give me this every offseason and I'll be happy.
It's just so funny because it's Big Ben.
he was like, I have a lot of demons. I'm not proud of my past. And everybody's like, I know where this one's going. And then he's like, as you know, I'm addicted to pornography. And we're like, we did not expect this one to be your vice Ben.
Didn't that come out of wasn't it like a men's leadership webinar talk that he came out and said that? Or is it something else?
I'm afraid to Google Big Ben addicted to porn. But we'll see. We'll see what comes up. Oh yeah. His addictions to alcohol and pornography. I've fallen short. He's at a virtual Man Up Pittsburgh event. I guess it's like a men's wellness event. So the alcohol one, I feel like makes a lot more sense comparatively to the pornography one. But I mean, if that's his vice, that's his vice.
You think people around the NFL, you think other players they're memeing him or no?
Or memeing him? There's got to be someone.
They probably got a good laugh out of it, like we just did.
Yeah, there's got to be someone who's close to him, like, wait, what did he say? Like someone's on the phone and they're like, no, you didn't.
I'd love to hear Pouncey's take on the situation.
Marquise Pouncey, what are your thoughts on Big Ben's pornography addiction?
I don't know. He's the most ride or die teammate of all time, so he is Big Ben.
He is ride or die. He's like, man, I have my addictions to pornography too. I don't know what I can do. His alcohol one definitely makes more sense than that one, but.
How are you feeling about Big Ben right before camp starts?
He lost so much weight. If you look up a picture of him, he actually looks so skinny comparatively to what he used to look like. Everyone's saying he's down 20 pounds, and that his arm's stronger.
I know he had a video with Juju and James Conner. Yeah, how did his arm look like throwing balls?
It looked good, and from all the reports, obviously, all the Steelers reports I follow. Take it with a grain of salt, but they're all saying his arm's stronger than it has ever been before the injury, that he's just looking good. I feel like, especially with how negative most spotlight and most media is towards Ben Roethlisberger, that if his arm was actually there's something wrong with it, that it would definitely pop out more than he's looking good. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just up to him going out there and playing. I think he's definitely in a good position with a good defense, a solid running back core, a solid receiving core, and a good line. None of it's the best, but other than the defense is definitely top 5, arguably top 3.
I think the Steelers are also in a good position. I think they're in a good position because obviously they're always going to have media pressure and big pressure just because they are one of the most historic franchises in the NFL. But within the division, all the storylines are going to be, oh, how's Baltimore going to do? How's Lamar going to do coming off the MVP? Oh, how's Joe Burrow? Are the Browns going to finally click, new head coach and all that? And I feel like the Steelers are kind of floating a little bit under the radar. They're always going to get talked about because of the Steelers. But I feel like they're in a good position where, I don't think, obviously they have pressure on them, but they're not they're not like the Ravens where people are expecting them to go, be in the Super Bowl, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're actually in – surprisingly enough, one of the top 3 teams with the most media coverage ever, every offseason, they always have. They might be top 3 least media coverage in terms of any spins or bad take. They're the ones in the AFC North that are kind of hiding right now, or it's someone like the Browns or Bengals. They're the ones who are kind of low key. So that's why I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but people who actually understand the roster and the rest of the AFC North, I don't think it's a big shock if the Steelers come out and go 11-5 and win the AFC North.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also my biased Steelers fan take that I'll always have. But I wanted to kind of go to shout-outs real quick because I think it's been a minute since we've done that. Hudson and I are moving into a house soon, and I want to give a shout-out to Sabra's Spicy Hummus because that will be purchased plenty, and our 3 rice cookers that we have. I think it's going to be a really, really enjoyable kitchen experience in the new home.
Yeah, shout out Spicy Hummus. Like always, we've been rocking them. We've been rocking with them for a while now.
Yeah.
My anti shout out is NFL preseason games because they won't be happening this year.
I can kind of get behind that. I mean, it's nice to have them, but I think not. It's nice to have them because you're getting close to football, but
I'm not a huge preseason fan.
I never really watched.
I don't think anyone really is, but
I know like players like have taught like, for example, Jordy Nelson tore his ACL. Tony Romo ended his career. Like preseason games have hurt players and taken away like parts of their career. It literally ended Tony Romo's because he busted his back. Granted, Dak wouldn't have got $35 million, so I'm pretty sure Dak's a fan of preseason games. So there's a win for everybody and every loss.
Wait, we didn't talk about. Did he not? He didn't sign that contract, did he? Or did he?
He did. Then his brother Tag started shit talking the Cowboys, saying that's not.
Yeah,
enough.
I saw his brother's thing was like, I've never been a fan. It was such a stupid thing. It was like, I've never been a fan of the Cowboys growing up, and after today, I don't know how much longer. Something like that. I don't really know what that was.
Yeah. He signed his franchise tender and is making $31.4 million, which I think is definitely a good market value for Dak. I don't know why he's getting upset. Cowboys, another team, they just paid everybody. There was not one player I feel like that they did not pay. I don't know where all these teams get all this money from, but I don't know how Tag Prescott can be upset at Dak getting 31 mil.
Wait, what's his brother's name?
Tag, T-A-G.
Tag and Dak. Yeah, I think we talked about the Dak thing a couple episodes ago. I don't really know what he expects or wants or thinks what level he's on. I mean, I understand having confidence in yourself, but he's definitely not on the level of Mahomes or Lamar or what Deshaun will probably get paid within the next.
I'm so sorry. His brother's name's actually Tad Prescott. I apologize.
Tad.
I don't know if that's better. I don't know if that's better, but.
I wish we had Carl on here to give us.
I wish I knew what Tad actually is short for, because Dak is short for Dakota. But
is it really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dakota Prescott. That's a hard name.
His real name's.
He would have got the money if he went by Dakota.
Well, his real name, I didn't know what his real name was. I just knew it wasn't. His real name's Rain, actually. His name's Rain Dakota Prescott. Yeah, Rayne, Rain.
That's like a creative player's name. Go by Rain or Dakota, you would have definitely got the money, not Dak. There you go. I just solved his problem.
Just change your name, Dak. It's that easy.
I think next time we'll be on the pod, Deshaun Watson will have a new deal.
Oh, I have another anti-shout out. It's real quick. It's Target advertising. It's scary as shit. I'll talk about something with my Target advertising. Not the store, literally Target advertising. I'll talk about something and then I'll just get a bunch of Instagram ads for it or recommendations in YouTube. I'm like, all right, YouTube, I talked about Starbucks coffee one time with my friends. Please stop giving me recommendations for it. It's creepy.
They're always listening.
They're always
listening. Shout
listening.
out to FBI for listening to this or whoever.
Yeah. Whichever FBI agent's responsible for keeping track of the pump is full, we appreciate it. I think that's all we got then. We'll end off
next
there.
Podcast. This will probably be our last Zoom podcast for a while. So
I know.
That's a shout out.
I know. Shout Zoom. Oh, actually, no, that is a shout out. Shout out to Zoom for keeping us through these tough times and letting us pod. That's important. All right. That's all we got. And thank you for listening to the Pump is Full podcast, and we will see you all next time.
Do you still chase the pump?
The pump is always out there. The wish they could chase after it, yes.
Just waking up in the morning, gotta thank God. I don't know, but today seems kinda odd.